Hi, friends. I'm registered dietitian Libby Parker, and today I'm going to just give you a few quick tips about how to talk to someone who has an eating disorder so that you're not triggering them or saying things that you're worried about. Okay, so I know a question that gets asked a lot of family and loved ones of people who are struggling with eating disorders is how do I talk to people so that we're not triggering them and making things worse? And what do I say? And am I going to say the wrong thing? I'm so scared to say the wrong thing, which I love these questions. First of all, that shows me that you care so much about that person in your life who is struggling with an eating disorder. And I think the fact that you're asking that question already tells us that you're doing a really good thing, right? The fact that you're questioning what you're saying and what you're doing around those people is really, really a great thing. I'd also like to say if you don't know if someone has an eating disorder or you're just, you don't know when you're talking about things, always assume that you know somebody that is struggling with some form of disordered eating and body image issues. So these are really going to be great tips just to carry out into the world with people that you don't know their inner workings of their mind as well. So stay tuned for all this coming at you. Okay, so my number one thing is if you are talking with someone or around someone that you know is struggling or you think is struggling, the number one thing is just be a normal human. Okay. It sounds really simple, but what people are really looking for is creating that genuine connection and having someone they feel comfortable talking to. You don't have to have all the answers, you don't have to say all the right things, but by being an empathetic listening ear, sometimes they just need to get this stuff out. And if you're not acting judgmental and you're really there for them and they can feel that genuine love that you're putting out towards them, that's what people really, really need. They might not ask for it, they might not know that's what they need, but when you're just being a really genuine friend, that's the number one thing. All right, so number two is watch what you're saying about your weight, their weight, other people's weight, or body shape. Like, just don't make comments on your body or anyone else's body. I think that should just be a good general rule. I don't know where in history we got into this place where it was so acceptable to talk about everyone's body, but it's really not helpful for anyone, whether or not they have an eating disorder. I mean, do you ever feel better about yourself when you step on a scale or hear someone saying something about your body? Probably not. So don't assume that anyone wants to hear about it. Honestly, we need to just appreciate our bodies for what they are and not comment on it. Something that I put in my book, Permission to Eat, is a quote or a scenario from the movie Mean Girls. And I'm assuming most of my followers have watched this movie, but the scene where they're in Regina's bedroom and they're all standing in the mirror and talking about the parts of their body that they don't like. Like, oh, I have man shoulders and, my calves are too big and whatever. Um, that has become so normalized in American culture and, first world country culture. I don't know why. Why do we feel better when we're putting our bodies down? It doesn't make sense to me. So I think I'm going to challenge you as someone who is striving to make the world an easier place for people with body image and eating disorder issues to live in, is to not comment on your own body. Like, what would it feel like to go through a day, a week without saying anything negative about your own body? Give that a try. I think it's going to be harder than you think it is. Okay. So, my next tip is if you are wanting to talk to someone about, I think you might have an eating disorder, that kind of thing, you don't know yet, and you're nervous to bring it up, first of all, I would say make sure you're already close to this person. It can come off as very abrupt if you're just an acquaintance or a casual observer of the person. So if it's, someone that you're connected with, this is when I would use these next talking points. If you're not really close to the person and you're concerned about them, bring it up to someone who is closer to them. So if it's maybe someone in your class at school and you don't know them that well, but you are concerned about them, maybe bring it up to the teacher, or, if you know their best friend or something, and say, hey, I'm, concerned about, your friend here. I'm afraid she might have an eating disorder. Do you know anything about that? And maybe they can't say, but um, by bringing it up to someone who's closer to them, that puts it on them to reach out and do it in a more loving and empathetic way than a random acquaintance might. So don't pressure yourself to have to reach out to people that you don't personally know. Also, don't comment on people over the internet. Don't say, hey, I think you have an eating disorder, to like someone you're just following online that you don't know in person. That also can be really abrupt and triggering. And I can't remember who said it. There was some um, person online some celebrity who was like, do you really think that I don't have anyone in my life that cares enough about me to mention that I have a problem? Of course I do. I don't need to hear it from someone that is just a follower that I've never met. So do take that into consideration. They probably have someone that can say that in a nicer way that's closer to them. Okay, but if the person is someone close to you, your friend, your family member, here are some ways that you can talk to them about it. So using I statements, as in, I am worried about you. I am concerned about you because I noticed that you blah, blah, blah. So bringing up specific behaviors that you've noticed, changes, things like that, from the perspective of, I'm concerned about you. I've noticed, I'm worried, rather than saying, you've been really acting different lately, or you're hurting yourself by doing XYZ. Put it on you from a, I'm worried about you thing, rather than a judgmental, you're hurting yourself. It comes off, again, very extreme and judgmental. And we want to really take a lot of the judgment out of this, because someone who is struggling with an eating disorder is already putting a lot of self judgment on themselves and thinking that people are judging them. So that's kind of proving their distorted mind if you're coming off as judgmental, even if that's not how you mean it. So using I statements is super important.
Today's video is brought to you by my book, Permission to Eat, a practical guide to working yourself out of an eating disorder during college while celebrating the awesomeness that is you. You can find it on Amazon.com and anywhere else that you like to buy books online.
If they admit that something is going on and they do want to seek help, or you can talk them into, it'd be a good idea to see a professional. Be supportive in whatever way makes sense for you. So that could be, hey, let's, let me know if you need any help finding someone. It could be, helping them research therapists and dietitians or treatment centers or whatever they need. It could be, hey, I'll go with you to your first appointment so you don't have to walk into the building alone. Most of the time, you're not going to go into the actual room with them unless they really, really want that, or an adolescent might bring their parent in or something. Um, but you can go with them and like sit in the waiting room and be there for them. You can, bring them a box of tissues or whatever they need. Or, they can go and you can say, hey, do you want me to check in on you later and just see how you're doing? Your job is not to be the food police. So don't ask them what they ate. Don't say, well, why don't you just eat something? Or let's go someplace healthy, or, that kind of stuff, because that's just kind of perpetuating that there are these food rules that they've set for themselves. And we want to just take away all those rules. So again, your job, you don't need to be the food police. I was going to say that's the dietitian's job. We are not the food police. Number one, dietitians are not the food police, but let the dietitian and the treatment team deal with the food part of it. You're the friend and family member, and that's not your job. Your job is to support them emotionally and make it a safe space for them to be at home or in their environment. You're there to be their friend, to do other things with them that have nothing to do with their eating disorder, watch a movie with them, go on a hike or bowling or make an art project together or just sit and chat, like whatever you normally would do with your friends. That doesn't need to be talking about food and body. What a concept. Um, those are really going to be the biggest things. So, really, I would say ask the person what they need help with and ask them for specifics. It could be they want you to help them make food or go grocery shopping. It could be they don't want to eat around you right now because that's really hard. And you just need to respect that for a little while. But if they do eat with you, don't comment on what they're eating. Don't stare at them eating or their food. Eat normal portions yourself. If you are on a diet or saying food is good and bad and those kinds of things, that really reinforces that they need to stay in their eating disorder patterns. So, as much as you can normalize that all foods are okay and that you're eating and you're happy about food, and like food is joyful and pleasurable and cultural and social and is just one little piece of life, not the main part of life, the more you're normalizing that for them. And then my last thing I want to say is don't put too much pressure on yourself about what you're saying. We're not perfect. Humans are not perfect. You're not going to get it right every time. You will probably say things that are triggering at some point, even if you're trying not to. And know that you're not the only person that's influencing their life. Our culture, media, other people, like I'm assuming that the person that you are caring about that's struggling is not living in a little bubble where you're the only person they're interacting with ever. Um, Diet culture is very, very pervasive. They're hearing that messaging from somewhere. So if you slip up and say something about, like, oh, I was so bad I ate that thing, try to correct yourself, but don't beat yourself up about it because they've already heard it from somewhere else or they're going to. Just know that you can be that really positive influence in their life, that things don't need to be the way that diet culture has set it up, that we can normalize eating again, and that food can just be one piece of life and it doesn't need to cause a lot of anxiety. I hope this was really helpful in being able to talk to a friend about their eating issues or helping them on their journey to getting treatment or just making more peace in life. These are tips that you can take even if you're not working with someone specifically that has an eating disorder, just really good things to carry out into life in general. If you liked this video, please hit that subscribe button below. Leave a comment if this was helpful for you. Share it around to people because I think these tips are really useful. And let me know if there are certain topics that you would like me to make more videos on. All right, I will see you next time.
You can buy Permission to Eat on Amazon.com and anywhere else that you like to buy books online. I hope that you'll join me, and I know that you've got this.